Hi, I'm Matt Roberts, health and OCR coach. Welcome to the Obstacle Dominator podcast. We specialize in training new and upcoming OCR athletes to excel in both life and competition. If you're a racer looking to improve your running, enhance your obstacle efficiency, and learn how to fuel your body for peak performance, you've come to the right place. We'll cover everything from building confidence, physical ability, your physique, and owning nutrition and recovery techniques. Join us for our weekly podcast episodes where you'll discover the race strategies and tactics that we teach our successful team members that will also allow you to dominate the obstacles in your path.
Welcome back, guys. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about the off-season and planning your year ahead and even beyond that. Today, I'm joined by Matt Chinn. How are you doing, Matt?
All great. Yeah, having a great week. So looking forward to some downtime.
Yeah, you got some time off coming up. What's your plan for your travels? I know we've just had some other conversations, but you can go into that as deep or as shallow as you want. But
yeah, so it's going to sound a little bit weird, but I'm going on a Disney cruise. 36-year-old male going on a Disney cruise on his own.
Gonna be
I'll
epic.
add a little bit more context on that, just in case someone starts to get worried. I've got a friend. Yeah, I met him a few years ago when I was traveling, and we've kept up connections. And he's currently working on the cruises, so he's invited me for a freebie. So yeah, thought I'd capitalize on it if I can fly into Orlando, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah,
Nice.
so yeah, that's
Nice.
the plan.
Yeah.
Just get some relaxing time in, and then yeah, nothing really planned with that.
Great. Well, I hope you have a good time. I'll save the military jokes for another time.
Awesome.
So yeah, let's dive in. Let's talk about this. Yeah, we've well, personally been through this process ourselves, but then equally, over the past couple of years, we've guided a lot of people through training on an annual basis and also multiple years now. There's been a lot of lessons that have personally come out for me and the way that I conduct myself during the season, transition into off season, actually being in the off season, then also preparation and planning for the year ahead and thinking bigger picture. So I think the best place to start is kind of looking forward to the next year, but then actually looking beyond that is like, well, where do I actually want to be in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years? Do I still see myself doing the things that I am then? Hopefully, like that's my intention, to still be like competitive and working really hard on my athleticism, my body, my performance, for my physical body and my own like health. I feel like it helps me in a good way. But I think like reverse engineering this process is the most important thing, because it's like, let's begin with the end in mind of who we want to become and what we want to achieve, and then working backwards to 12 months from now, and then looking at, okay, well, where do I want to be in 12 months? And then what do I need to do to achieve that in terms of the process over a series of 8 to 12 week blocks, and then also where I'm at like now. So I think urging people to look at the bigger picture and where they want to be, versus a big problem I see with a lot of people is like, yeah, I've signed up for this race in 6 weeks. What do I need to do now for that? And then panic training and potentially risking like injury or setbacks, and then repeating that process, and then just flipping and changing the plan all of the time, which isn't necessarily a problem. But what I'm hoping to achieve, and I'll let you elaborate on this as well, Matt, is to help people think bigger picture and like see what they're working towards, and based on that, the most important thing is like, who do they want to become, what do they want to have achieved, so that they can, well, be healthier and happier, with the balance of a life as well as being a competitive person as well. Anything you want to like add on that from your point of view, Matt?
No, pretty much covers it all. Like, I think the main thing is sort of structure and planning. So, like, not trying to take on too much. I'm sure we'll tap into this a little bit later in the call, sort of like in terms of what it is that you want to achieve. Yeah, in fact. So yeah, we'll carry on and see where this takes us.
Yeah, and I'll put up some slides. So if anyone's listening to this, there's also like some visuals. Like this is part of a presentation that we're delivering to our members in our community at the moment. So yeah, if you're listening to this, know that there are some like some slides that you can either screenshot or utilize. So actually you can go away and like plan and utilize this tool like we are personally for ourselves in the planning and the organization of the next year plus, but then also what other people in our community are utilizing as well. I think finding balance is the thing that has become more and more apparent and is actually essential for continuous growth. And that's finding balance between the health aspect, which could be on numerous levels, but there's three in particular. The first one's the mind, the second one's the body, and then the third core area is the spirit. And we want to make sure that we are like balancing each of these out. Now, people that like race, in particular, like who we work with, OCR athletes, they're super, super driven, very, very determined, very, very dedicated towards a specific outcome. And that might be, yeah, I want to have fun, I like the community, or it could be actually like I'm chasing down personal bests, or I'm trying to reach a podium, or trying to win a championship. There's numerous like avenues we can go down, but from what we're seeing now is that can often throw things out of balance in terms of, are we actually working on the mental aspect, and also are we working on like the spiritual aspect as well? So what we want to do is find balance, especially at this particular part of the year as well, where we are coming into the off season, or you may be in the off season, and then also looking at next year when you're in the thick of it in the competitive season. And I think talking about season, I want to speak about like seasons, and we are currently in autumn, and really autumn is the transition to winter, and winter is really going to be the off season. If we think of like creatures on Earth, they often hibernate, they tuck themselves away. There's not really too much going on. The weather is bad. So we tuck ourselves away and go and do other work in different aspects. And that may not just be physical, that could be mental or spiritual things, which I would suggest that you can do, because actually you're not caught up with going to different places around the world or different events, or haven't got the pressure of performing at the highest level in that, which actually allows you to give back more to other aspects of life and your training as well, which I think is massively important. But then once we've like been through winter and we're merging, we come into spring, and spring is typically pre-season. We may have some races in there to kind of check in and finalize where we're at before we then go into summer, which is the competitive season. So you could look at it in terms of like seasons, or your season and what you do. And actually in each season, yeah, each period, you're actually like focusing on different attributes. And that may be from like the physical performance aspect. It's like now you're kind of going into autumn and winter. This is kind of like your aerobic base building and like maintenance work. And then you're going into the spring where actually you're fine tuning things and you're increasing the intensity. And then coming to the end of that period, but you're then moving into the summer, and there'll be a particular point in the summer, maybe a competition, an event, that you want to actually reach peak performance. But we can't operate as we do in the summer at peak performance all year round, because the physical body will not be able to sustain that unless you're very gifted. But then also mentally, like your mind will start to give up and you'll start to lose the love for it. So it's making sure that we're not reaching physical burnout, but also mental burnout as well. And if people have had successful seasons this year, they might be really, really motivated and keen to move forward and just get back into it. But actually, this is this is an opportunity to optimize and learn from the experiences from the past year to then carry them forward into the next year. Like Liam Mitchell is a prime example of this. He's been into his off season now a couple of months, and I know, Matt, you've been like assisting on the coaching, the training, but he's now like the fittest he's ever been going into the off season. And with the simplistic approach that we're taking, yeah, he will remain fresh, injury free. He'll continue to progress and build on his success. And come the time to race and compete, he will be even better, bigger, stronger. But then also the conversation I had with him, he's planning ahead so far until like his mid-30s now, like with what he's doing year on year out with his competition, which is amazing, because it's like, okay, by this point I want to be here. By this point I want to be here. Okay, and this is where I want to be aiming for, and this is where I need to get to, and this is confirmed by this, and this. So it's just always thinking of the bigger picture, and often to move forward, we don't always need to be having the pedal to the metal. Sometimes we need to push forward, other times we need to consolidate, other times we need to take time off in order to keep ourselves mentally and physically primed to continue to do this over many months, many years. Anything you want to add on that, Matt?
Yeah, going back, so like at the end of the season it's always a really good time to celebrate and reflect. So like looking ahead, yeah, we want to be focused on that, because that's what's effectively going to be our driving force to achieve all the things. But most people, like, it's in our innate sort of ability to forget about living in the present and like really like celebrating kind of the season that you might have had, whether it be a personal best in anything, or you've made a life transition, whatever it might be. We often are always focused on the next thing and the next thing after that. So you can actually start to fall out of love with whatever it is that you're pursuing in that moment, because it's like, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? So one of the things that we always speak to, like the people that we work with, is actually taking a little bit of time to celebrate how far they've come, and then also reflect. So one of the things could be, you've had a fantastic season, you hit PBs in whatever discipline that you've been doing. So whether it be a road race or an OCR race, or you hit a podium or whatever. So really take that time to embrace what it feels like, because yeah, that's the reason why you're doing it, is to feel those that amazing sort of energy from it. Okay, so celebration is massive, but then also reflecting, it's like, what went well, what didn't go so well, and then what can I be looking to learn from, and then apply that to my next season. So again, like there's always room for just taking that time at the end to be able to do that. So yeah, really urge you to take that time.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it goes back to the point of like reverse engineering the process, rather than going, okay, this is what I'm working towards in the next month or 6 weeks, without actually thinking beyond that, and then working towards that specifically, when actually that might not be categorized as very important race. That's just what's immediately in front of you. And then you learn from the lessons, and then you look at the next one, rather than actually, what's the bigger picture? Like, where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? And actually like reverse engineering that process. So it's like, it's a continuation, like that race is like a learning experience. And you gain value for it in its own way. And it's kind of like confirmation or check-in, or if it's not, you learn from your mistakes and you can carry them forward. But it's always like thinking ahead. And for me, like I'm thinking ahead to next year. I've already planned out my year. Like my A races are the 3K races this year. One's European Championships, the other one's the World Championships. I'm also planning to do the Trifecta World Championships, which is completely opposite distances, but that's actually a B race for me, although it's a championship event. I'm focusing on what I'm passionate about to focus on for the next year, probably more. But actually also I'm good at shorter, more explosive distances. So it's also like focusing on what you feel called to do, what you also feel naturally like good at. But if that's not a goal for you, maybe you want to focus on developing an area of weakness. But strongly suggest, like if you're good at something, double your efforts down on that to become better. So it's looking at that bigger picture and where I want to be at the end of the year. But then it's like, okay, well, I'm thinking beyond that now. My last race is in September. So I'm already looking at when's my next off season going to be? Okay, my next off season is going to be from here all the way through till March 2026. Yeah, and then I'm probably going to do some 10K races in that time period just to work towards, so I can work on some top end speed, threshold work, and then I'll go and do Mallorca, and then I'll do some other Spartan races, and then it's like, well, actually, where do I want to be? Like, what do I want to achieve? And that will give us a lot of the answers. But then also not categorizing every race as an A race, meaning that you want to perform maximally. Yeah, it might be something that's a C race where you're just confirming how you're getting along, and the ability or chance opportunity to test out something that you haven't necessarily done in races. And that's why, like for the past few years, I've personally gone to Mallorca with a number of the team members, because it's like by sort of March time, you haven't actually done any OCR probably for maybe 4 to 6 months. And that can be quite worrying, because we're like, okay, well, I've been working on my running. I can see development in that. I've also been working on my grip, and I've seen development on that. But then it's piecing all of those together. So having a race which isn't like super competitive, although you could put yourself in a competitive environment, like you're not self-inducing pressure, because it's not like a championship race or something that enables you to qualify for a championship race. It's just a pre-season check-in to go, okay, I know I've done well with my running, I know I've done well with my grip. Now I want to blend it all together in a competitive environment, to see how effective the training has been. And it takes away that uncertainty and gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling that when you go into your first races, the work that you've done in the off season, which is essential, has worked well. And speaking to one of the guys, Louis, on the coaching call on Monday, he had success in the Spartan UK National Series this year, getting second place in the series. And he said on that call, he absolutely knows that the work that he put on or put in at this period of the year was essential for his success at this part of the year now. So the later part of the year in the last race that he did at the year. Okay, so I really want to like highlight that and emphasize to people that if you're kind of still umming and ahhing what you doing, and you're like, well, there's no events for ages, I'm going to take my foot off the gas. You can do that to an extent, but be like tactical and strategic about that. But actually, this is the most important time, because you've got the ability to have time that is untouched by additional travel, certain things that can get in the way, life events, and then additional races, which means you can have a very good, lengthy, effective training block or training blocks geared towards a specific outcome. Then you get into the race season where it's getting busy. Whereas a lot of people try to boost their fitness throughout the competitive season, when actually often all you can really do is fine tune some certain things and own certain skills and abilities, but not necessarily significantly push your fitness forward.
Yeah, it's also great mental resilience training in the off season, because it's winter time for a lot of places. So it's a lot colder, it's a lot darker. And to build up that mental resilience of going out when you don't want to go, well, that's really going to lead you to like maintaining this consistency and building from there. So yeah, it's really important part is to push yourself into a bit of discomfort in the off season, because when it does get to spring and whatnot, then yeah, that's really going to excel, and you're going to look forward to more of that training, and when you're ready to ramp it up as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a huge part of it. And speaking from my own experience, not actually so much this year. There might have been points this year, but like the past 2 years previously, competing or racing from March time through till December. So doing trifecta world championships in November, and then doing the world championships in December for Spartan. That's a 9-month race season. That's far too long. Like if you want to maximize performance, and physically my body could handle that and could have continued, and I got back into a good training block soon after that. But mentally, I remember running around on those last few races going, I'm done. Like, I'm done for the year. Like, I'm ready just to take a bit of a breather and a break. And that's not often a place that we want to be operating from. Yeah, we want to make sure that we're turning up with a spring in our step, we're physically primed, but also mentally, like, we're thinking in an upbeat and positive way, rather than having like a negative thought process around the situation. Okay, so we've spoke about like the off season and planning like the year ahead and beyond. Looking at this like slide now, so like the ultimate goal or the current ultimate goal could be anywhere from like 2 to 5 years down the line. Going back to my point of people looking at a race and wanting to get a particular outcome, and it's 6 weeks or 3 months from now, like often we need years and years and years to actually train for something, and then we're just trying to fast track the whole process. Like, speaking about Mitch again, he's looking at when he's like 33 years old, that's when he's going to be up and winning. That's 5 years away. Yeah, so he's planting seeds now for how he's going to perform in 5 years' time. Okay, so that's bigger picture stuff. Versus like, yeah, I want to do the UK OCR series next year. I want to do the Spartan series next year. I've not really done anything competitive, or I've only been competing a couple of years. I want to win that. Okay, there is probably an element of like realism in that, but that depends on where you're currently at now, the work that you're willing to do to work towards that without sacrificing your health, your life, and other aspects of life to do that. And often many of us don't actually have the ability to do that because of work, life, relationships, and things like that. And also it's pretty unhealthy to do it. So it's like, set conditions now, how you mean to go on, and understand that this is journey and progress, and transformation takes time. And also along that line, things may change as well. You may change as a person. There will be things that come up and get in the way. And that's why it's super, super important to do things correct here and now with what we're saying, because any deviation from the plan, any like hiccup or anything that gets in the way, an injury or whatever it may be, that is a setback that holds you back for longer. And that doesn't just weigh on you physically, that weighs on you mentally, and that can torment you. So I'm not saying to people to slow down. I'm saying to optimize and to like prioritize the thing that's important for you right now, or the things that are important, but look at things in terms of like the bigger picture and way down the line. Yeah. And then that can give you like the process and the actionable steps that you need to be working towards, to achieve a healthy body, a healthy mind, the energy that you want, the vitality, like, and also having longevity within your life, but also the sport, and not just being so focused on performance that it's detrimental to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you got anything you want to add on that?
No, you've covered it all there.
Okay, so question for everyone to answer is like, what is your current ultimate goal, and who do you want to become? What do you want to achieve? Like, where do you want to be? Maybe like pause this and just ponder on that for a moment. And then what you can do is set a realistic timeline that can be flexible and adaptable, so you can adjust that depending on how well you do, or if you encounter setbacks, life events, whatever. So that's bigger picture. And the second thing I want you to start looking at is like, what's the primary goal or outcome that you want to achieve in 2025? So that's another question. Pause this, ponder on it, write it down, do a diagram, put it on a calendar. Okay. And then from there, we can actually reverse engineer the process, and put like logical steps in a sequence to get you towards that goal. Now, looking at in terms of like prioritization, and I'll speak about my year and what I plan to do in the year ahead, is categorizing races into a priority race, which would be an A race, B race, which is still a priority race, but it's lower priority. That could be something that you're doing in the build up to an A race as confirmation. It could be a qualification race, although that could be considered an A race as well. And then you've got your C races, which are more for experience, trying things new. So it's not having every single race on a weekend as an A race and you're going to go as hard as possible, because there's a cost to that. Cost in terms of you lose a week's worth of training in the build up to that to make sure that you're not overloading yourself and therefore risking injury. But then also, if you do lots of intense races on a weekend, it could probably take you 1 to 3 weeks to actually recover from that, in particular if it's like an ultra or a trifecta weekend, which would hinder the amount of training you get. And what we found and seen in people, when people have got more than one event in the calendar per month, like they're probably only realistically getting 1 to 2 weeks worth of training based on that. If they've got 2 events in the calendar that are A races that aren't included as part of their training plan, then you could pretty much scratch that whole month's worth of training, to be honest. Like, so you can imagine now if you've got back-to-back race weekends, or you've got a 3-month period, which is the summer, which is the height of the season, where you've got multiple races a month, multiple races across that 3-month block, that's not necessarily going to be a time for you to boost your fitness. So then looking back at this period, what we're going into and what we're at now, that highlights the importance to be doing the work. Yeah, and not having the stress and the pressure of having immediate races, and also trying to like push your fitness forward really, really hard and fast. Anything to add on that, Matt?
Yeah, so a couple of things. If we take it back to like the current ultimate goal and like your primary 2025 goal, one of the things I'd urge you to do is visit www.7levelsdeep.com. And what you can do with that is get really granular as to the reason why that is your primary goal. Okay, so it's going to ask you what you want to do, and it's going to take you 7 levels deep. Okay, so you may find there's like an emotional attachment to this goal, may even stem back from childhood as to the reason why you're so competitive to complete this particular goal. So really urge you to take the time. Take you about 15-20 minutes, but you'll get granular with that, and that's going to be your driving force as you move forward. Fast forward to sort of like, overstacking yourself with races, like something I've experienced with people that I've worked with previously. And not only does it bring down your immune system, a lot of people tend to get sick off the back of that, because it's not just the race itself, it's the stresses that go with it. So organizing yourself, making sure you're at the right place at the right time, travel. A lot of people travel internationally or nationally, so that adds another stress. Flying is one of the worst things we can do for our bodies, is putting ourselves 40,000 feet in the air and then being stuck inside a tin can effectively. And then, if there's time zone shifts, so a lot of people won't even have time to acclimate properly to the environment. And then they're going to go thrash themselves in a race. So the immune system gets brought down. And then off the back of it, if sleep's off, nutrition's off, then a lot of people do get sick. And then you've got that mental stress trying to get yourself prepped for the next race, which could be a week or 2 weeks later. And you might lose out on quite a bit of training in between. So really important that we do structure our races in a logical sequence where you're not overdoing it. And for myself this year, I think I've had 4 races, which one I only had one, which was like an A race. And within that, I actually did a lot better than I was expecting, because I'd focused a massive block of training towards that. And then I tapered off with plenty of time to spare as well. So it was really important that I was able to be in peak physical condition for that one, because it was at high altitude and that sucks.
Yeah. Some really valid points. And there's a quote I've put on here. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. Like, whatever you do and wherever you go to grow, just keep it simple. And often the key to success is in doing less. Yeah. So doing less volume. Yeah. So actually you can give more and be more quality in other aspects of life. Or like Matt said, just having a few races in the calendar where you can really, really pursue and max out in. I mean, we're speaking a lot about racing, which is like a big part of what we do, but only part of what we do. And actually, I find a lot of OCR athletes, they actually focus so much on the physical performance and they neglect their health, their body in the process. And we just chase down that performance looking for the additional gains. But actually, like, prioritizing our health, our mind, our body, so like the way that we think, act and behave, the inputs on our body in terms of like nutrition and exposure to light, and if we're minimizing like things like toxins and making sure we're getting fresh air and having healthy relationships, often all of these things can be neglected and actually be very, very damaging for the longevity of our performance and our goals. And often we focus so much on the performance that, like Matt said, like we can become ill. Yeah, our immune system's down. So also this time of year is a great opportunity to really like dial things in. And now, like I see it with Mitch, like me, like I'm into my off season now. Like my nutrition is far better right now. Like I'm getting leaner by the day. Like I'm feeling energized because I'm in a good routine and it's not disrupted by so many events and having to travel here and there. And I feel like a lot of people want the performance aspect, but are not willing to do the stuff behind the scenes other than like just thinking it's all about getting in the gym and training. Like a big thing we speak about is power to weight ratio. It's like people think, oh yeah, I need to get better at the monkey bars, and yeah, I need to be able to get over this wall. It's like, well, if you're 30 pounds overweight, then probably addressing some fat loss through nutrition, stress management, and optimizing your training intensities is really, really powerful. And I mean, we've got numerous examples, but I want to highlight one guy that has been working with us about sort of 6-7 weeks now, who had quite a bad like race experience recently and then reached out and jumped on the team to work with us. Like the main priority that we focused on was breath work, like optimizing his breathing. Therefore, he can tap into the correct energy systems, and then ensuring that he's sticking to the right intensity so he can tap into the right energy systems that will enable him to function metabolically, energetically in the right way, at the right outputs. And like the body and health transformation is significant for such a small amount of time. But a lot of people will think, oh, I just need to train harder, I just need to work harder. The reason I'm not getting the gains or progressing, it's like, well, no, like if you've got like a faulty foundation, like you need to optimize that, you need to change that, you need to improve that. And often that comes down to nutrition, stress management, breathing, making sure that you're following a structured training program that is geared towards the bigger picture of your overall health and the ultimate goal. And that translates into performance. So I just want to like encourage and like urge to people that like if you're chasing a performance goal and you know deep down that you're not satisfied with your health or the way that your body looks or the way that you feel, like this is a great opportunity at this time of the year to really dial this in. And I know that it can be quite scary because it's like, yeah, I want the gains, I want to progress, I want to do well in OCR. Well, this is the fastest and most proven path to do so, but it just takes like the trust in the process. And we're open to conversations about that, all right? And like, if you want to chat on a deeper level of how to go about that, just reach out to us and we'll like exchange messages and whatnot. But that's where a lot of the work lies, and that opens up to a whole lot of good, because the lighter you are, the leaner you are, the more energy you have, yeah, enables you to perform better in the gym and push for extra gains. And then the input that you're putting in terms of good quality nutrition has not only made you leaner, it's also enabled you to build more muscle and gain more strength. And then when you're in that position, you can actually work on the technique. So there's an immediate performance enhancer by focusing on your health rather than just trying to get in the gym and squeezing it in training sessions as intensely as possible and as often as possible. And we see a lot of people doing that. And people think we're trying to slow them down. We're not. We're trying to optimize their routine so they can actually give more and achieve more in less time by all of these like strategies and tactics.
Yeah, and going back to breath work as well, it's like it's probably one of like the best performance enhancers, which is free. Like there's no cost to it whatsoever. And like I've worked with a few people now, and we've incorporated breath work. And like Matt was saying, with the guy who's just jumped on recently, well, he's already had reports from his other half that like his snoring's reduced straight off the bat, which means he's getting a better quality of sleep. And like for myself, I've reintroduced mouth taping, which is improving my sleep quality. And it's something that I can do. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to get used to and finding a strategy that works for you in the placement of the tape. However, if I'm waking up feeling more energized, well, that means I'm going to be able to put more energy into my workouts. So I'm actually going to get better crossover because I'm well rested. I'm getting better quality sleep. I'm getting more time in deep sleep, which is the physically restorative part of the sleep cycle. So the training that I'm doing is going to consolidate and I'm going to get better gains from that versus being tired and wired and then, yep, waking up dehydrated because I've been mouth breathing all night. And we've like another guy that I was working with, his heart rate variability went up. He had sleep apnea. And like he's had improvements within his health. So his heart rate variability has gone up, his resting heart rate's gone down. He feels more energized throughout the course of the day. So it's one of those like absolute free tools that we can use. And yeah, so breath work is massive. And like Matt's saying with like overall health, if we're looking at the short term and we're very much fixated on like, right, yeah, I want to hit, I don't know, 5 or 6 trifectas in the space of a year. And then I've got these other races. Well, we're looking short term. It's like, how long is your body going to be able to sustain that before it starts to break down? And then one of the questions I'll ask people is like, right, what do you want to be or what do you want to be doing when you're like 60, 70 years old? And usually the answer is something like, I want to be skiing or want to be doing this or that. When in fact, a lot of people are in a state where like bending over and clipping their own toenails could be problematic at that age. And those are like some of the core things that we want to be aiming towards, like cooking your own meals unassisted. So looking at longer term. And even as far as racing is like, yeah, you might get 5 or 6 trifectas in a year or more, but you do that for 3 years, your body breaks down. But then if you took away 2 of those, and did that, you'd probably be able to do that for a lot longer, which is going to keep you sort of like younger, healthier, etc., etc. So yeah, definitely looking at the long term is critical. What you want to achieve.
Yeah, there's a great saying. It comes from the world of like survival, and it's you can survive with 2 minutes without oxygen. You can survive 2 hours without shelter. You can survive 2 days without fluids, so water, and then you can survive, well, you can't survive more than like 2 weeks to 2 months without eating. So if we look at like what the human needs are for survival, you can't survive without oxygen for 2 minutes. So I think that highlights the importance of what we're saying with breath work, and optimizing breath is a really, really powerful thing for your overall health, energy, and yeah, the way that you perform cognitively as well as physically. So it's definitely something to remember. And I think we've spoken about like the Peter Attia Titanic analogy, but for younger people, and talking about younger people, I'm saying like guys all the way up to their 50s, it's like, well, we're running around doing all these trifectas. Yeah, I'm pushing back the biological clock in numerous ways, but I'm also accelerating my aging. And because I feel young and vibrant, it doesn't mean that I'm not I'm not healthy. I think that I'm healthy, but actually what we think is healthy is very often different to what is healthy. And we think that these things are never going to happen to us. We're never going to get ill. So we just push that off into the future. And when they crop their ugly head up, because we've had years and years of living incorrectly and out of alignment with our human biology and exposing ourselves to all these stresses and toxins, and one day we become ill, like we're then baffled. It's like, now you need to be thinking about your long-term health, vitality, so you can live a long life, rather than going, yeah, it's really cool, I'm going to see how much I can achieve and how much my human body's capable of. That's great now, and while you're showing off your trifecta medals online and going, yeah, I've done this and I've got the Spartan Shield and whatever else, that's great. Maybe do that for a year or two, but knock it on the head, because it's not going to serve you to the truest level. And I think it's having that mindset shift and really like listening to the words and advice that we're saying, which is very, very difficult. But we see many people have this shift and learn to trust us and the process. And then as soon as they start to see progress that they've never seen before, they're absolutely wowed, and then they're fully bought into it. And going back to numerous people, like through breath work, through nutrition, one of the conversations I had with one of the guys yesterday, it's like he's been on medication for a while, and then 2 months in, his doctor's reducing his medication based on all the stuff that we're doing already. Yeah, and often it's not anything fancy or frilly, it's doing the basics and doing them well. But unfortunately, in the fitness world and in the health world, we think we need the new pill or the fashionable approach or the bit of clothing or the new program or whatever, which actually isn't functional. It's just fashionable, and that can fuck us up significantly. So we need to avoid that and have some trust in the basics and learn to do them well. And that is often the thing that's going to create the biggest shifts, versus a lot of people that are really pushing really hard for performance goals, and then they're having heart conditions and fucking ill health and injuries, and then that's affecting their mental health. That's really problematic. And the more and more I do my own work and the deep work and the stuff within me, and I look at people that do OCR or athletes, I think that's fucking great. Like, you are achieving some fucking mean feats of physical endurance and pushing the body to its limits. But in that, you're neglecting like the deeper work. And I think when I see a lot of people like accomplishing things and going after these new and bigger next challenges, it's really not about that. Like, it's about the stuff that we do outside of the gym and we do behind closed doors. And that deep inner work is the most transformative stuff for our being, for our soul, that will be everlasting. And I often think, what are people running from by doing all these big feats of endurance? And I spoke about it on a couple of calls we've done this year. Like, I'm at a point in my life where I can sign up to a fucking beastly race and know that I'll be able to fucking crack on and slog through it for the most part. Yeah, there's concerns and whatever else, but I would be physically prepared to take on that challenge. Like, there'll be certain things that I wouldn't want to do or wouldn't be realistic for me to do in my current state. But if I chose to do something, I put in my body and mind to it, I'd be able to do it. But often people will do that to avoid actually doing the inner deep work themselves. And that's really where the greatest achievement and accomplishments comes from. But we mask and we focus on the performance aspect in the physical realm, and we neglect all of the stuff that's really going to create shifts and transformations for us. And that's what we're helping our people see more and more, that we need to have balance between the mind, the body, and the spiritual aspect. And when we do that seasonally, we can actually be very balanced, grounded, all-encompassing, excelling individuals that are healthier and happier versus stressed, burned out, frustrated, and injured. Cool, Matt. I know you're limited for time now. Is there anything final you want to like add on this front?
No, I think we've covered a fair bit, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's just more
yeah,
about just looking at things objectively and sort of like longer term. So planning, whatever that looks like to yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
great. All right, man. Well, I know you need to hop. There's a few more things I want to go over in terms of like the process, but yeah, thanks for jumping on, and that you guys have listened and well, taken value from what Matt shared. It honestly is like the pivotal stuff, the stuff that will see you through this next year and beyond in a more sustainable way.
Cool.
Nice.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks for having us on. And yeah.
Cheers, man. Catch you in a bit. All right, guys. So obviously we spoke about like bigger picture. Something I recommend, and this is certainly something that I personally do. And actually I signed up to one of these 2 nights ago. So we're talking about the A goals, the bigger picture, the stuff that we're working towards now. But also we want to have that balance of not coming into the off season burned out, but then also unmotivated because there's not anything on the horizon to aim towards. So what I'm doing with the guys that we coach is making sure that they've got something not too far in the distant future, maybe something like a road race based on the set distance they want to compete at next year. So something to work towards in the next 4 to 6 weeks, something to work towards for the next 3 to 4 months. And that could be a trail race, that could be a road race, that could be a fell race. It could be something like DECA, it could be something like a 3K race or a time trial, or something personally you set for yourself in that time period. All right, so for me, I've got a 10K race in 8 weeks. I've then got another 10K race in about 16 weeks. So they're my 2 target races. One's to check in and see where I'm currently at and work towards, and then the other one's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm exactly where I want to be going into this season. And then there's a bunch of C races, like doing fell races, which will actually just be part of my training block that I won't taper for. So it's important to have balance between all of these. But then also something I've done is I've booked myself onto an event, like a retreat. So I'm heading out to Ibiza for like 10 days, and I'm going to go out there and do some like networking, do some business. There's like a fight club part of the event. All right. So I'm going to like proper combat with other men. There's also like potent detoxification processes utilizing Cambo, and then deeper like spiritual work like meditations, and also the use of plant medicines as well to really optimize my being like on the deepest level. But then the information that comes from that is utilized in the rest of my life, not just for the physical performance. And that's a big thing for me, is actually like doing that deep work to gain clarity on my life and the direction that I want to take it. Yeah, what I want for my body, the way that I want to think, the things that I want to be experiencing in my life, rather than getting so sucked into just competing within OCR. And that's a big part of me, and that will be a big part of me. And that's important for me as a human to have like a competitive forum to go into, to unleash that part of me, and scratch that itch of my competitive nature. But then also it's working on the other attributes, the mind and the body, to give me clarity on where I'm at and where I want to go. But then also that's part of my off season. So we're speaking about like taking a week or 2 off. Like something we also suggest for people is look at the next few months for you, rather than you just taking like a few weeks off training and not really addressing like your nutrition and whatever else and letting things slide. I am going to take my off season in January, those 10 days, in November. And then also the next time I'll take off will be at Christmas. So it's like when I'm wanting to put time into loved ones and just take a little bit of time out and not feel the pressure of having to train, although I will continue to train over that time period. But it's not like I'm stressing myself out by having all these other commitments. So I've got the balance between like rest and relaxation. Then also I'm prioritizing different like types of races to keep me like motivated and incentivized, and goals to work towards. But then also I've got things that aren't necessarily like racing to assist in this as well. All right, there's plenty more that can be done here. I'd love to like open up some conversation around this on either Apple Podcasts or over on Spotify. You can leave notes on there, or any questions, and I'll get back to you. Also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, you can send me a direct message on there. But if you want more help with the organization of this as well, I'm launching an open week that actually starts this Monday. There's already like 10 guys that are interested in hopping onto that, where it's come in, experience the community, experience the coaching, have an assessment week, and then also have a week of training to build towards what you want, all free of charge, just for the experience. And yeah, like if you want to jump on that, there's an opportunity for that as well. We've got also a number of different coaching programs, 2 in particular. One that's very all-encompassing, but absolutely transformational. But then also we've got a smaller group program, which is very, very potent, very powerful, also very transformative, but it's not as potent and it's also more budget friendly. So if you want any help and like what you've heard, then feel free to reach out. No need to commit to anything. Let's just have a chat if you feel called to. If you need help with your mind, your body, your spirit to increase your energy, your health, and ultimately your performance down the line. Appreciate you listening. Thanks very much. One final thing you could do for me is just share this on your social media platforms, or if you think another person would take value from what's been said today, then please send that on to them. Thanks very much. Catch you next time.
Thanks for listening. If you found value in today's podcast, then we'll greatly appreciate a rating and a review so we can help find more people like you. Also, sharing this episode on your social media channels will help us reach more people so that we can provide them with the same knowledge, race strategies, the tactics to allow us all to succeed in both life as well as competition. Also, if you'd like to dive deeper and learn more about how we can support you on your journey, then head over to Instagram or Facebook and send me a direct message. Alternatively, you can visit livingprimal.co.uk for more information about our services. Catch you next time.